Hello, good morning. You are watching QTV this morning. I am Ibrahim Asuri Balde. We are back again on another edition of QTV this morning, wherever you're watching us. It's Wednesday morning, and we are broadcasting from the Gambia, West Africa. We're saying hello to you in case you're watching from Europe, America, Asia, and, you know, other parts of the world. I'm Ibrahim Asuri Balde on the platform with Mr. Adedrame.
Yeah, good morning. I'm smiling because who knows, there might be some astronauts up in space watching.
Absolutely, from space as well.
So even in outer space, if you're watching, welcome. Yeah.
Exactly. Welcome to this program.
Yeah.
A program where we discuss, a lot of things, review some of the stories making headlines. And on the program today, we will be taking a look at the African Code, and of course, the newspaper review. We'll be discussing some of the stories with Mr. Adedrame. Then from there, we will be analyzing, we'll be talking about the draft constitution, and Council Lamin J. Dabo will be here.
Yes, and you'll be looking at the stance that's been taken by the Gambia Bar Association
as well.
Issued their own kind of response to this. And
as
so
to
you'll be analyzing that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the second phase of Operation Clear the Road and Highways. It's interesting when you say clear the road and highways. You know, most of the time when we talk about Operation Clear the Road, or Operation Clear the Highway, we focus more on the highway. That's the Mamadi Manyang, the Battle Harden. But clear the roads, it's telling you something. It can be even off-road.
Oh, even if it's clear the road?
Once you're encroaching on the land.
So they should call it clear the off-road as well?
No, it's talking about even off-road, even if your shop or business is at the corner,
yes.
If it's really obstructing the road, they will clear you as well.
Yes, I think part of why they're doing this, I know people are very sympathetic, and we'll get into the discussion later. You and I know that there are places where people have encroached so much that for us, the pedestrians, it means you have to walk on the road and put your life in danger. And we know how recklessly people drive in the Gambia. And I think, places that should be for people to walk on should be for people to walk on. So let pedestrians have their say. So some people are sort of celebrating, others are not. Yeah.
Absolutely. Then we will be focusing on the rise of Kush menace. Bakari Kamara, head matron, Tanka, a psychiatric hospital will be here, and we will be talking about it. If you touch Kush is going to make you mad, and it's going to change your human nature.
There are serious consequences, as we've heard from people who've sat here and told us from the medical standpoint, but it doesn't seem to stop people because it seems to be on the rise here and in other countries. And I think you're right, and we are also right to keep highlighting it. And it needs to be addressed before it gets totally out of hand. Yeah.
All right. The proverb reads, do not be like the mosquito that bites the owner of the house. You know.
So this is about ingratitude, ungratefulness, I guess. And we've had similar either quotes or proverbs here that we've discussed to do with being ungrateful. But if a mosquito is listening, they're smiling because, of course, many of them, once they come into your house, of course, what are they going to do? It is in their nature to bite, having annoyed your ear, first of all, that terrible noise they make, and then, you look in the morning and your mosquito bites all, and that's them being very ungrateful. So this is telling people, if somebody has been hospitable to you, don't be ungrateful and do something that will be, that's the opposite of repaying their kindness, which is what mosquitoes do, but it's in their nature.
I have my interpretation.
Please.
But at some point, I will delve into this. I prefer mosquitoes biting me than making that
than
annoying
singing that
noise
terrible song.
on my ears. I can sleep. I can manage the bite, maybe.
I think most of us.
Yeah, but not that sound.
Yes,
And I think they do that sound deliberately just to annoy you, to make the place very uncomfortable to govern.
Well, this is somebody once I read a few weeks ago, and I mentioned it here before. The person said, "Dear mosquitoes, we know you have to bite, but do you have to make that annoying
Why should you make that noise
in our ears as well?" I mean, that is the real thing. That, but obviously, I think it's something in the ear, either the ear wax or something that attracts them, because yeah, they come and sing in your ear, and then seconds later they've bitten you on the neck or the arms or somewhere.
That noise is
most annoying.
Really annoying.
Yeah. So, what's your interpretation of the quote?
Well, isn't that not the
case? You're going to delve.
Isn't that not the case today? At some point, you give space to others, and they still betray you and stab you on the back.
It can happen.
You know, several times the society have changed to an extent whereby, even doing good for people, now many people are scared to do it because. I got my experience, people got their experience, you got your experience, and another person got their experience. Most of the time, the goods that you do for others, at some point they will turn out to be at your own disadvantage at some point.
Yeah,
so
it's a difficult one because you can only be who you are and what you are. If you're a kind and giving person, the fact that you might have a bad experience should not make you
change your attitude,
your you know, who you are and what you are. But it does happen. I think for most of us, we have seen both sides of it. We've been generous to people, and they've repaid our kindness with you know, and we've been also on the other side of that, or the other side of that coin, where you've been kind to somebody or you've been hospitable to somebody, and they've not been they've not repaid that kindness at all. They've done the opposite of that. So I think you have to balance it out. But you can only be, you know, who you are, and keep on being yourself. Don't let a bad experience change you. Yeah.
Exactly. It's difficult sometimes, but
it's difficult. It's not easy. It's not easy.
That's the truth. Don't let bad experience change you. Although they are very grateful people. Let's take a look at the case of Jomai Faye and you know, Usman Sonko. Even last week I was talking to someone, and the person was saying, "Do you think their relationship is going to last?" I was like, I don't know. But the reason why Jomai was elected in Senegal is because of Usman Sonko.
Yeah, and I think
you know,
I think he'll always. We assume he will always be grateful for that, but that's not guaranteed. We've had instances of people stabbing people in the back. In our sub-region, probably the most infamous one is Burkina Faso, Thomas Sankara. You know, Blaise Compaoré was his friend. They grew up in the same house. And it's one who had him killed, you know, the man that he trusted above everybody else. So yes, Sonko, Jomai Faye, time will tell, but sometimes the relationship can change because one person has power as the president, the other is the prime minister, and it will change, you know. I think people were kind of romantically thinking that at some point Jomai Faye might stand down. I don't think anybody stands down as president. I think it's disrespectful to the constitution if people do that. It's not your personal property. If you have been elected, you've been elected. Serve your term. So even here in the Gambia, where that was mooted, I disagreed with it when it was a possibility that after 3 years Barrow would stand down. I've always felt that when I hear people do that or say that, I think it's disrespectful to the electorate, because the electorate elected a particular person. That person should serve his or her term. And so I think the same will happen in Senegal. I don't see Jomai Faye standing down for Sonko at all, you know, and neither should he. He's the one who's been elected.
Well, these things doesn't happen that way. I mean,
and what would be interesting would be if he serves a first successful term, whether he will go for a second term.
Second term, that's what I'm talking about.
Or step down. You had the case in Russia where Putin stood down for one term. I'm trying to remember the guy's name who then became president for one term, but he always said that he would hand over back to Putin, which he did.
Oh, he did that?
Yeah, of course. He dare not, because even when he was supposedly the president, everybody knew that Putin was the one pulling the strings and running the show. So, you know, he was a kind of puppet president. His name escapes me for the moment, but yeah, it's not that long ago. And of course, Putin is now back, and doesn't look like he's going anywhere.
And he won recent elections as well. I mean,
he always
99%.
No, that wasn't Putin. That was in
Kagame.
Rwanda. That was Kagame. Putin's one was lower, but still quite high percentage. But that was easy because he'd locked up most of his opponents anyway. So, so the others were too scared to stand anyway. So
I know
that's one way of making sure that you win. Yeah.
But don't you think there are other leaders in Africa that think the presidency belongs to their clan? I mean, it belongs to
in Congo, Republic of Congo.
It's a dynasty thing.
Yeah, well, in Republic of Congo, you have Sassou Nguesso, who's been there for 40 years. In Rwanda, you have in Uganda, well, even in Rwanda, of course, but in Uganda, you have Museveni. He's now, is it 39, 40 years? In Cameroon, Paul Biya, 41 years in power. Most of those people hope to hand over to their children, so yeah, they think it's a monarchy rather than a democracy. And even in Rwanda, there are already rumors that Kagame is grooming his son who's in the army. And similarly, next door in Uganda, just close by in Uganda, Museveni is also grooming his son to take over from him. So they do think it's a kind of family property, sadly. And next door, Abdoulaye Wade was hoping that Karim would succeed him. Didn't happen. It didn't happen, but that was his ambition. So many of them.
Well, I don't know what's wrong. And what type of sweetness do we have on the seat of the presidency?
Trust me, when you see what you get when you become president, who would want to give that up? Which human being would not enjoy all that privilege that comes with it? When you're driving, even just to go from State House to somewhere else, they clear the traffic for you.
While you are even taking bath, you're taking your bath, and you are not ready.
You're not even ready
as
to
a
go
president,
on the
they clear the whole road from Banjul to Brikama. It's cleared for you.
Who would want to give that up? So yeah, it's they get seduced by the trappings of the presidency, and of course they don't want to give it up. Yeah.
Too much of sweet things sometimes is bad. Well, too much of getting into enjoyment. Too much of enjoyment is bad. At some point, you will try to drown yourself in it.
It can be bad in the sense that you forget about things. The most important thing you probably forget about is that you've been elected to serve. I think in most African countries, people think they've been elected to rule people. They think they've been elected to be a king or a monarch or an emperor. They don't see themselves really, if they're honest, as a public servant, somebody elected to serve the people. Many of them don't. I can't think of any, so it's a dangerous thing. There are so many examples across our continent where people have been elected and then they don't want to go. They just stay and they overstay.
It reminds me, there was a time in the Gambia. It was alleged that a group of elders gathered themselves to go to the former president Jammeh. No, Jammeh itself.
Jammeh. Oh, right.
Yes,
okay.
to at least make him king. I mean,
yes.
You heard about that.
Of course.
For him to remain here, and let him keep ruling, let his generation keep ruling. I don't know what were they thinking.
I think they thought that the sort of ego he has, they knew that this was something that would appeal to him, I think. Yeah. But
it's crazy.
It's cool, yeah. But we've gone off the proverb somewhat.
Exactly.
But an interesting conversation.
Mr. Ade, I think the European media too, they were not fair to former President Yahya Jammeh. They said the man who claimed to rule Gambia for a million years.
No, it was his own statement.
No, he didn't say.
He said, if Allah wills it.
If Allah wills.
Yeah, so they didn't. So no,
That's what he
they
said.
reported what he said.
No, he said if Allah wills.
And they reported that.
But they don't mention if Allah wills on their reports. They just said the man who claimed to rule, he said he will rule Gambia for a million years.
If you read any of the reports, I was working at the BBC at the time. If you read this story, that's exactly, they quoted what he said. They didn't say,
But they didn't say when Allah wills. That's what he said.
No, I'm saying they quoted what he said, which included if Allah wills it. You can find the BBC story right now.
I watched several of them. They didn't say that.
You can find the story right now. So please, they reported what he said. But even that, nobody lives for
I know
a
the man
years.
committed a lot of atrocities. I know he did a lot of things. But at least let's say it the way he said it. That's media ethics for you, isn't it?
Well, that's what I'm saying. I don't know if you can prove to me that they didn't report it that way. I'll take it back. But I think they reported what he said.
We'll take a short break. After the break, then we'll continue with the program. You're watching QTV This Morning, and I am Ibrahim Masuri Balde. We'll be right back after the break.
Looking for internet for your free videos, pictures, chats, work, and school projects? Think free night browsing. QCell's free night browsing lets you browse the internet for free. Oh yeah. Get a data SIM, recharge a minimum of $500 and enjoy free browsing after 24 hours from midnight to 6 a.m. every night for 30 days. QCell, Sunubus. We innovate, others follow. It's happy time. Get 50% off all calls to any network. Enjoy calls every day to any network from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. Is it too good to be true? QCell. We innovate, others follow. As the fastest growing GSM company in the Gambia, QCell has the widest 4G plus coverage in the country. 3 times faster internet speed than our competitors. So switch now and dial *335# and enjoy what true 4G feels like. QCell, Gambia's trusted network. QCell, the fastest growing network in the Gambia, now presents to you the eSIM. QCell's eSIM allows you to electronically scan a code and join the world of digital SIM cards. Customers with physical SIMs can easily switch to the eSIM as well. So rush now and get connected with an eSIM and start using the latest mobile technology with your trusted GSM operator. For more information, call our customer care on 111. QCell, Sunubus. We innovate, others follow. Terms and conditions apply.
Get a QCell SIM card for free. Yes, absolutely free. Walk into any of our customer care centers and get a SIM free of charge. With a QCell SIM card, you can get the fastest and the most reliable internet plus wide range of amazing services. So rush now to any of our care centers and get a free SIM now. For more information, call our customer care on 111. QCell Sunubus. We innovate, others follow. Terms and conditions apply.
Have you been looking for the perfect indoor router with long-range Wi-Fi coverage and faster internet speed connecting all your smart devices? Well, we present to you the QCell Indoor Router, a router that has all you need and much more. For just $4,275, you can get 4G plus internet speed, wide coverage, and connect up to 15 devices. That's not all. The indoor router can be used for both office and home needs. So, enhance your internet experience with our indoor router. For more info, call our customer care on 111. QCell, Sunubus. We innovate, others follow.
With so many things to do in a single day, it's important to have a network you can trust. When there's family and friends to connect with and business calls to make, you need a network that is reliable and fast. Talk longer, browse faster, go farther, and roam wider. When your network is solid, the world is your oyster. QCell, your trusted network in the Gambia.
When your network is solid, the world is your oyster.
Yes.
Very important. And the only network you can get and enjoy free, internet browsing in the night, 12 midnight. It's the QCell network.
By which time you're fast asleep, of course.
Yes, so
normally.
it's important. For some of us, we are always awake around 12 midnight, so we can go through 6 a.m. Yeah, so we are back. You are watching QTV this morning. I am Ibrahim Masuri Balde, and I have two gentlemen in the studios with me. Mr. Momodu Mboj, how are you doing?
Fine, thank you.
World Stripes Day.
World Stripes Day?
Yeah.
It should be. There should be one. Yes.
Why wearing stripes?
And you wearing check.
I'm wearing check. Yeah,
Yes.
so,
So
how are you doing?
Just to
Well,
go
we
against
have-
the day.
Well, we have a day. Every day is designated
for
for one
something,
thing
yeah.
or another.
Why
Yeah,
not
so
why
Stripes Day?
not?
Why not?
Yeah.
We can do that.
Why
I
not
mean,
Stripes Day?
well, it's good to have you here, Mr. Momodu Mboj. How are you doing? How was your yesterday?
How was my yesterday? Just like my day before.
Just like my day before.
only slightly different.
Exactly. So, Mr. Adedrame, let's take a look
Yes.
at the stories
Delve into the
on the
newspapers, shall we?
newspapers.
Yes.
We can proceed. I've seen a lot of stories there, interesting stories. Just give me a little time to go through them. Senegal constitutes commission to renegotiate oil gas mining contract.
And you were asking, I think yesterday. about-
Exactly, yes.
about
And now it appears on the paper
and
again.
I said I think they're about to. So
Yes.
yes, because particularly the oil one, there was a BBC Panorama program some years ago which exposed how ridiculously one-sided it was in favor of the people who were doing the prospecting and digging the oil and Senegal. I think there was one point where it said that over a 10-year period, I think they were expected to get something like $9 billion, and Senegal would get about $2 billion.
Oh,
Yeah. Oh, exactly is what everybody said, and so I think it was almost inevitable that that would be renegotiated. At the time, the program exposed Macky Sall's brother, who was a minister. He was caught on secret filming, negotiating a kickback for himself, and in fact Macky Sall ended up having to sack him. But I think the contract stood. But I think that contract, I think everybody felt it would be renegotiated at some point. Because we've said this before, if they get a proper and a fair oil revenue from it, it will be a game changer for Senegal. Don't forget, this is a country that's already doing fantastic things. In fact, just before you came on, I was smiling because my nephew seems to have just found out that Senegal launched its own satellite over the weekend. So I was just replying to him when we had the break that actually we covered the story here on QTV. They're our neighbors, and so, high-speed trains and so on. And we'll be doing a story soon about some of the development that's taking place in Senegal as a kind of inspiration to others in the sub-region to do similar or better. So, yeah.
well, when you look at countries like Guinea-Bissau, Guinea-Conakry, Sierra Leone, Liberia, the Gambia, I can call Senegal to be the capital city of all those countries. Because when you look at the technology trend for Senegal and the rapid development that they are really into, you will definitely know they've gone a long way. Despite other countries have mineral resources. Sierra Leone have diamonds. I mean, Liberia,
Guinea.
Guinea-Conakry.
And Guinea also renegotiating they have already, about a few months ago, about 3-4 months ago, renegotiated all their mining contracts. Mamadi Doumbouya famously went on TV and told the nation, and he brought he showed the new contracts being signed, and it was revealed what the new deal was compared to the old deal that Lansana Conte and others had signed. So it's happening. But yes, a lot of these countries have squandered their mineral wealth. In spite of all of this, officially there's only one country that ranks as a middle income country in ECOWAS, and that's Cabo Verde. It's not Senegal, not yet. The oil wealth might change that, as it has changed some of these Arab countries. They need to handle it well. We saw how Nigeria has mishandled its.
That's another problem.
So yeah, I mean, I don't understand what your thoughts
Well,
are on,
Mr. Mboj
on
is
Senegal being the capital city of
our
of our
sub-region.
sub-region.
Mr. Mboj, is one thing having oil in your country, but it's another thing managing it. We've seen Nigeria; they mismanage their oil, and Nigeria is definitely from bad to worst when it comes to economic crisis.
The oil curse.
Yeah, the kind of resource curse.
Absolutely.
Yeah, oil is good.
And during the campaign, of course, we heard from Joma and Sonko saying that they want to reverse that, you know, so that
curse.
it will be a blessing
like you said,
instead of the other way round. Then you wonder, what space have they got to renegotiate? And why was this deal negotiated in the first place? You know what I mean?
In that way.
In that way.
Yeah.
So, because you're wondering, the people who negotiated this, was it simply to get their ends? I'm not sure whether it was quite like that.
Yeah.
I think that when you look into the details, what these people are going to bring, you know, the contractors and the like, these are the things that determine. Yeah.
You know, we did all the prospecting, we brought all the equipment. Yes, it's your oil, but we've spent millions, in fact billions, to get to the point where we can extract it. So because of that, we felt, you know, they felt it was a fair. But I think across the world, when people heard the disparity in what they were getting to what the whole country was getting, the fact that a company was going to be getting more than the country was kind of shocking to many people. Like, hey, what is our oil? So I think it was almost inevitable that they would revisit it. And, you know, they've already started extracting. We saw the first lot that Joma Ifai held up to the public to say, look, here's the first drop. But yeah, I think Mboj is right. We need to ask the question, why did they negotiate such a contract that it needed revisiting so soon? I mean, we're not even talking a year into, you know, they've just started a few months ago. Digging the oil or extracting the oil, and already it's being reported that it's being renegotiated. So how did it come to be that it was so poorly done in the first place? Because these governments, they tend to get experts.
I hope they were not so
them.
excited to an extent whereby, there is oil in our country, and they were so excited, you know, fascinated about it, to an extent where they agree on things that don't favor their country.
I once, and people will forgive me, I once wrote an article where I addressed this, and I'll tell you why I say people should forgive me for this. I said, it's like the ugly girl at the dance who nobody asks for a dance. And then somebody that she probably wouldn't have looked at, comes and says, hey, can I have the dance?
Oh.
And this is Africa. We just say yes to anybody and everybody. And you know, because some of the deals that have been agreed across our continent, they're shameful. And that's why you hear all the time in Burkina Faso, in Guinea-Conakry, in Niger, people are renegotiating deals that were made by, why did they make such poor deals? Who advise them so badly that, look, if you want to come and extract oil from my land, I have what you want. I should be. It's like you go to a shop. You don't tell the shopkeeper, I'm going to pay $20 for this. The shopkeeper tells you, this is what I'm selling it for.
It's good that you mentioned that.
This is how much I'm selling it for.
I got my, even last night, I got a scenario like that. Someone came to my shop to buy something. But when I've already closed the shop, and I told my son, look, okay, he needs something.
Yes.
And I told him, this is my price. If he is buying less than that, don't sell him. So the guy went and opened and showed the guy the product. Then the guy paid a smaller
lesser
price. And he came
amount.
and I said to my son, don't sell it.
Right.
Place it there. Don't worry. I bought my things. So sometimes you need to be able to sacrifice for the greater good at some point. Otherwise, it will affect you.
It's not even about sacrificing for the greater good. I think a lot of times you've used when you said earlier that we seem just ever so grateful that these people come and want what we have. But the thing is, it is what we have.
And they know it.
I mean, look, we live in West Africa. In the whole of our sub-region, you go and you will see corrugated iron roofs. The iron comes from here. Virtually no country processes it. We export it and then we buy these things back here. That is ridiculous, you know. And even when you look at those deals, a lot of them are really poor. You know, the iron ore is here, the ore is extracted, it's taken abroad, and then they sell the finished product, the corrugated iron roof, back to us. You see them everywhere. You know, but we need to be wiser, and we need to kind of, you know, be firmer. And that's why we look with envy at some of the Arab nations and what they have done with their oil wealth. You know, when we say, you know, why can't we do the same?
Supreme Islamic Council meets parties today amid growing NPP UDP tensions. I think they want to at least do maybe a professional talk between them. Let's bury the hatchet. Let's bygones be bygones. Let's call a spade a spade. But I don't know if they're going to call the spade there, because at some point this is a party thing. You know, each and every person wants to be right.
Yes, we're becoming rather good at talking and less at doing. I don't know how many sessions and workshops and seminars we've attended where people have said we will bury hate speech, we don't need hate speech, and yet we still have it in the political discourse. Talking is cheap. You know, actions will betray the truth of whether, you know, so they can talk and talk and talk all they want, and they can come and shake hands in public for a photo opportunity if that's what they end up doing. But their actions will betray them. Right.
And what have we seen? I mean, let's bury the hatchet. Of course you bury the hatchet, but you know exactly where you buried it.
Where you're going to bury it.
You can go on.
In somebody.
You can always go back.
Or you might even bury the hatchet in somebody's head or
the,
in their back or whatever.
That's the
so
problem.
yes, look, you know, it's good that they're trying to get some sort of rapprochement between these two parties, but at the end of the day, there's a contestation. You know, politics is like that. You know, we have different ideologies or plans. That's why we're in opposition. But it should not turn nasty, and that's what we're saying, really. And that's what needs to be addressed. Look at what's happening now in the United States. Obviously, they're leading up to November's election. Everybody's hurling insults at each other, mainly. I mean, somebody who's a Trump supporter sent me. And he was trying to say Trump was being intellectual, and yet the headline says Trump calls Kamala Harris a string of nasty names. I said, is this your idea of Trump being intellectual? I said, you should be embarrassed to even send this out. I said, look at the headline, you know. So yeah, it's the nature of politics, but we need to tone it down because we know it can spill over.
In fact, is it the work of the Supreme Islamic Council to invite all these parties in?
Yes, they have a job to do. They shouldn't just preach. And this is one of the things that they always say about these religious leaders, both Christian and Muslim. It's not just you do the khutbah on Friday or you do the sermon. People live in the world, be engaged in what is happening. Don't say, oh, it's outside there, it's politics, we won't get involved. No. The people that you preach to on Friday, they are Gambians, they are citizens, and they are involved in politics, and so should you be. And politics can end up influencing or impacting on what you do. You know, so of course they should get involved. Why not?
Exactly. So, Spanish Prime Minister to visit Gambia over rising migrant arrivals.
Mr. Mboj, you want to take this one?
So what is he going to do? I mean, when he comes to the Gambia, I mean, to assess the situation, okay, why are they visiting? Why are they using the back way? What happened? Is he going to talk to, I mean, the people in the Gambia to stay here?
He's going to speak to you, the back way ambassador.
Yeah, I would definitely love to have him here.
Yeah.
There will be no answers about that. It's just simply going to be about how can we help you, how can they pump in money, you know, having all kinds of programs that they think will be a deterrent, will keep people here when we know that that's not going to happen. That's not going to happen soon. You know, I was just thinking about this the other day. You know, when we advance the socio-economic argument while we stay, then we recall back, since independence, socio-economically, we've never really done well.
No.
There has been suffering all the time, but there was no such thing as backward.
Yeah, quite.
I mean, the thing is, now it exists as an option.
Yeah,
that's the only difference.
That's it.
Really,
that
before it didn't. Yeah, now it exists as an option. People will use it. The only way it will stop is that if it stops existing as an option. However, we are going to do that. But it exists as an option. People will take it. The disappointment over all sorts of things, our history so far. So nobody's seen any bright prospects.
Well, this is it. And you know, again, one of the reasons why I'm smiling is because you and everyone else, you've probably got fed up of me talking about Cape Verde. But Cape Verde in our sub-region is officially the only country that has more of its citizens living outside than in it. It's the only country in this sub-region. And that's one of the reasons why when they did that ranking about the passports, Cape Verde actually ranked lower than the Gambia because so many Cape Verdeans leave. And this is a country which, as I said earlier, is the only middle-income country. It's not a prosperous, it doesn't have riches, but you go there, the standard of living is excellent. People go there and say, oh, they come back and they say, oh, it's like, I felt I was in Portugal or in Madrid, you know, if you're in Praia or if you're in Mindelo, because of how, you know, advanced a lot of it is. And yet, many Cape Verdeans leave. There are over 1 million of them outside of the country, and the country only has a population of 580,000.
That's migration for you.
It's migration.
Yes, many people want to migrate to other countries.
The difference between them is that many of them go with skills. A lot of our people who migrate from here and end up in Spain, and that's probably why we're getting the Spanish leader coming, is because a lot of them are unskilled, let's be honest. They don't go with any skills. They just go with the hope that they'll get something, a job, and they can then start remitting. Because that's one of the big drivers. You know, the country, the smallest, the Gambia, can rank in monetary terms 9th out of 55 countries in Africa. It's obviously not the 9th biggest, but in terms of remittances in 2020, Gambia was ranked.
I was talking
9th.
to my wife the other. I said, okay, do you think when you go to Paraguay or you go to Europe, you go to America, even if you are minister in the Gambia, if you go there, you are not going to be minister in that country. You still need to have to do other jobs as well. That's what I said to her. And I said the notion that people have is when you are a big man here, if you get there, you are going to sit in the office and start working a well-structured job.
It depends. I mean, if you're a doctor or an accountant or you're a nurse, those are transferable skills you can take anywhere in the world. And what you will get there as a doctor, a nurse or accountant is way more than you'll get in the Gambia. Those are recognized skills and professions that are global. And that's the difference. But a minister, no, that's not a, you know, so that's not a good analogy. But if you go with a particular skill or profession, you're a surgeon here in the Gambia, as we know, they come and they recruit these countries, these Western countries. They come and they recruit our people who are trained solely, 100% trained here in the Gambia, because they know that we train them to quite a high standard.
And a minister is not a profession.
No, no.
It's just a political appointment. Yeah. It doesn't mean much.
As we've seen, and it can be a political disappointment, as we saw with some of the ones who were...
But you know, Ade, I would rather those who don't have skills leave, those who have skills stay.
Yeah.
You see, it's not really in the national interest.
I argue this all the point. When I used to go to these meetings in London, where, you know, people had come from London, they'd gone to Sierra Leone and they were trying to recruit Sierra Leone and nurses to come in. I'm like, no, we need them to stay in Sierra Leone. I know, you know, because frankly, we need them more than England does or the UK did, you know. But yeah, I'd rather the ones with skills stayed, of course.
Because I do hear people, sort of those living outside, giving advice to the young people over here and say, get skills. Then, you know, when you come over, I'm like, oh my God. Will the exploitation ever end? end,
It will never end.
it's always that you're the ones
never end.
giving your
Giving.
best,
You know,
your
get the skills
strongest.
and get your skills and
your
deploy your
most
skills here.
skillful.
Yeah.
Everybody just wants to leave. It's an
I think
extraordinary
there,
situation to be
there are
in.
more people that are skilled from Africa that travel to Europe than those that remained here.
Yeah.
You understand? And
Well,
I
yeah.
think
I
this.
don't have the facts
don't
there.
have the
I'm
data.
not sure
That's
about
That's why
that,
I
but-
said I
We
think.
have many.
I
We have
think,
many who are out there. Yeah.
Many of them.
Yeah.
It's important for us to be serious more about this Tibet education, you know, which is very significant. I can see the government of the Gambia, they are very concerned about it, and they are really trying to improve certain Tibet institutions, the GTTI, that's the, USET, University of Technical and Vocational Skills. So
Yeah.
I think, it's important for us to go through it. But the structure that we have in Africa, that is okay. We
In
go to
Gambia.
school, in the Gambia, we go to school, we finish, we graduate, we come sit in the office. And Mr. Mboy just said, ministerial position is not a skill.
It's not a profession.
It's not a profession.
It's not a profession as well, rather. You understand?
It's not a profession.
So I
because
think
you
it's
can- you
important,
can be
each and
appointed
every
and you can
person,
be dropped.
even if you will have what you're doing, but it's important to learn something.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, when you don't have people who you produce who are skilled, whether it's carpentry, architecture, some of the worst built houses I've seen anywhere are here in the Gambia. And when I went to the university and I'd been here for 3 years and nobody had graduated as an architect, I understood why. I mean, because people scribble a plan on a piece of paper, and they're horrendous, some of the buildings. And they're halfway being built and they realize that I've got something wrong here, this is not going to work. I went to one house where they had stairs that just led up to a ceiling. I mean, who was thinking about that? So you're right, Tibet and others, you can then be the skilled person, you can create your own business, you can work for yourself. We have all these mechanics by the side of the road. Virtually none of them have been to a school to learn that stuff. They fiddle with your car, sometimes they get it right, sometimes they get it wrong. But if you do it to a good level and you set up a business, people will come to you because they know that you are skilled, you are qualified, and that you will, do it, you'll do it right. And also, biggest of all, we spend millions of dollars importing people from other countries to come and build everything from roads to bridges rather than our own civil engineers. We have a long way to go.
So, just a matter of sort of understanding the social pressures. Really, structurally, what is making people really not go into Tibet, we've known for a very long time. That because of the stigma, there was a certain stigma
That's
attached
right.
to
You're not clever, that's why you've gone
you're not
to
clever, that's why you're doing all of that. So how do you try to transform that? It's very interesting that now instead of GTTI, we've got USET, University. Is it to elevate them, to give them that respectability? Granted, but we must never forget the crucial thing. Stuff like Tibet, they're not academic. We must always make the distinction between the vocational
Quite.
and the academic.
Quite. Because
That's
in
it. Just
the UK,
because I'm not academic doesn't mean that I'm not clever.
Quite.
I can be just as intelligent, perhaps more intelligent than the academic.
Because
as
there's a
such.
guy who in
But
the UK, he's got his City and Guilds certificate that tells you that he's learned a skill and he's got a certificate to prove it. He may be a mechanic, a carpenter, or whatever. And we need to get to that point where, because you've been trained to a certain standard. I mean, we've seen it. You go somewhere and somebody says, I bought this bed from a carpenter, and we're like, you paid him or he paid you? Because it's like, what is this? So even that kind of, so this is kind of where Tibet is leading to. And as Mboj says, just because this person has that, and it doesn't mean you're cleverer, but there'd always been that stigma, and we need to get away from that.
That's it. That's structural bias.
Yeah.
Because even when you're done, then all I need to do is just bring my papers and the like. I'll probably then get the position.
Yeah.
See, this is it. We've got this paper fetish.
Yeah, quite.
So
Okay.
people hide behind this.
Yeah,
How
quite.
many people have you met in England?
Yeah,
You will go to these shoe-in universities.
Yeah,
You've
right.
just got your degree, come back, got a position.
We'll come back to that, Mr. Mboj. And we have Counsel Lamin Jedabo, constitutional lawyer, on the line, analyzing the Gambia Bar Association stance on the draft constitution. We have Mr. Dabo on the line. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
How are you? I hope everything is going well this morning.
Yes, it is.
Just a quick one. I know you are getting ready for other engagements as well.
Yeah.
We decided to engage you on the Gambia Bar Association stance on the draft constitution. The Gambia Bar Association has raised concern about the lack of transparency and consultation in the introduction of the 2024 draft constitution. From a legal standpoint, how critical is stakeholder consultation in the constitution building process?
Well, I have read the Gambia Bar Association press release, and I agree with it entirely. The points that were raised were procedural. Yes. And that also includes the lack of consultation with other stakeholders. My view aligns with that of the Gambia Bar Association because I don't believe the document is an executive document. It is a national document. So if you want to resuscitate the document from its failure in 2020, then you really need to go to civil society. You really need to consult with the political parties. You really need to consult with other stakeholders. Because at the end of the day, you are going to need all the support necessary to ensure that this goes through the National Assembly. There will be no referendum. The people will have no opportunity to vote on this if it did not go through the National Assembly. So that is a very critical hurdle. And the government has made its job a lot more difficult. If it had consulted prior, it would have been able to deal with some of the issues that had now been raised in the public domain by all manner of stakeholders.
Exactly.
I mean, Council, the GBA have said that they want to engage stakeholders, including National Assembly members, over the next 90 days. Do you think this is an approach that's going to address and even, really satisfy their concerns?
Well, I think it would lend credibility to the consultation process, since the GBA is an important civil society organization. So it would have to advise itself on the way forward. And if engaging with National Assembly members and other key people, there are people not in the National Assembly, but who will definitely be central to any negotiations that would eventually be needed to break the deadlock that we are in right now. So the GBA did not say anything substantively. It said it will study the document and come up with a position paper. So right now what we are dealing with was the lack of consultation, the procedural issues, if you like, leading to where we are, or leading to the announcement last week that the government has gazetted the draft Constitution Bill 2024. So now that is where everybody is focused on, the lack of consultation. And I don't believe the government has an answer, really, for that lack of consultation. There is no justification for it. Like I said, it's a national document. So you need to consult all the stakeholders.
Mr. Dabo, Mr. Mboj here.
Mr. Mboj.
Yes. You've called the objections of the GBA as procedural. So what does that mean? How significant is that? What effect, how might it dent, as it were, the whole process? What value do you give to that so-called procedural objections?
Well, the procedural objection is this. You cannot do this. It's just like taking somebody to court without notifying the person that there is a court case against him. Now, you can go all the way to judgment, and that judgment would be nullified because you did not inform the other party that there is a case you filed against him. So, in this case, the Bar Association, as an important stakeholder, is raising this. It's a preliminary issue. If you look at the press release, it didn't say anything about the content of the document. It said it will study the document and then it will come back to share its position on the document with the public. So that is really very important. So, but this procedural one, this whole thing can really collapse at the procedural level. Why do I say that? Well, if the stakeholders are not consulted and they don't want to play ball with you, they have representatives in the National Assembly. Just imagine, all you need is about 16, 17 votes to collapse this. Yeah, 16, 17 votes to collapse this whole thing. That's what you need. So, are there 16, 17 votes in the National Assembly who are opposed to this 2024 draft? It's a possibility. It is a possibility.
Yes. All right. The government has announced a press conference to discuss the 2024 draft and plan to publish an explanatory note on the amendments. How do you think this could impact public perception and the overall legitimacy of the draft?
The plane has left the terminal already. So obviously, this damage control is going to be problematic. Yes. Will it succeed? I don't know. The people are in a mood for a new constitution, but it appears that the public perception is right now heavily tilted against the government. So it should have done all of this before coming out with the document. It was under no time pressure. So obviously, this is a self-imposed problem.
Mr. Ade, you have a final question for him?
Yes, I mean, Council, we've said, in fact, you've said the plane has left the terminal. I was going to say the horse has bolted. But legally, is there a possibility that a legal objection could be mounted to this failure of procedure, as you've indicated? I think Mboj was kind of asking you about the procedural failings that you mentioned, but is there anything legally that can be done to say this process must be halted, or is it a case of leave it till it gets to the National Assembly?
Well, it's one of two things. I think the National Assembly route would be quicker if you go through but it can be simultaneous. If there are constituencies in the public sphere who feel strongly about this, yes, the legal challenge can be mounted. But the National Assembly route, we know definitively that has to come to conclusion within the next 5 months. Yeah, within the next 5 months. So the courts are on vacation right now. The whole of September, the Supreme Court will not sit. This is an issue that has to go to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court will not sit. So we are looking at October, the preliminaries, the responses, and all that stuff. So the court process will take, at the very minimum, nothing less than 6 months, if not a year. So I think the political route would be much quicker. it would settle the issue definitively once and for all.
Thank you very much, Council, for talking to us on QTV this morning.
Thank you, I'm
Right.
grateful.
Thank you. Yeah, so Council Lamin Jedaba there, at least giving us an explanation of the stance of the Gambia Bar Association on the draft constitution. Mr. Ade, it's really complex. It's really, you know, I was not even expecting the stance of the Gambia Bar Association.
I think when the press release came out,
yeah.
straight away people started commenting, why have they gazetted it? And it's interesting that the government has said that they're going to hold this press conference to
yes.
explain. They should have done that first.
Exactly.
Not after, really. I mean, this is me advising them as a comms person. You don't put out the press release and then you explain and then you put out the press release. You say, we're putting out this draft constitution, we're doing it in this way, and that's why, because amongst other things they've said they will address at this press conference why they have made the amendments. And the reason I asked about the legal challenge is that who has the right to make an amendment before a draft constitution is placed? There's a Constitutional Review Council. We know famously they went global to all the places where you have huge populations of Gambians to consult with them before the constitution was presented. So that process has been kind of usurped, if one might say.
You see, this of us were quite surprised, really, that when we heard that with this revised version, it was just executive.
Yeah.
You didn't have other parties. There were no other, what they call stakeholder consultations, as it were, to come up with this. So that in itself was quite surprising, because we thought that perhaps the National Assembly, the cross-party committee, that was really the best place where you know you bring on board all the different interest groups, as it were, political parties and civil society organizations, and come up with something else.
Sure.
So we were just quite surprised that it was just
you know, we're trying to tell people, Mboj and I have been trying to read it, but it's 171 pages long. So it's not easy, but you know, we've read what we thought were some of the more eye-catching clauses. In fact, things like the president not having to refer ministers to the National Assembly and so on. Diaspora voting has been removed and so on. Those are the ones that are kind of headline-grabbing omissions, if you want. And I think for various reasons it's going to be very, very difficult.
Now,
what is stimulated the debate?
And particularly, I think what will be interesting, especially the conference, the press conference, will be this. What were the guiding principles or values of the revisions?
Yeah, quite.
What determined what was to be left and what to be changed and to what? What were the guiding ideas, as it were, that were driving the revisions? That will be very interesting.
Thank you. And what will happen when the draft fails to pass?
If it fails to pass, it can go back to the Constitutional Review Commission. It can be, because I think the country, most people, although I remember one reverend saying that the 1997 constitution was fine, it was a beautiful constitution, he described it as. I think many people want a change. What do we want that change to be? There are various interests in what is in and what is left out. And so that is the most difficult battle. You know, what do you put in and what do you leave out before you once again present it to the public and to the National Assembly? And of course, at some point, a referendum will have to come into play. You know, and but people have to be. And you were mentioning the other day about, I hope it will be in local languages. Well,
exactly,
the previous draft was. I mean, if this one is agreed upon at some point that it should go forward at all, then they will translate it as they did the last one. So yeah, I think that will happen for sure.
Exactly. Let's talk to the Gambia Police PRO, cadet ASP Musa Sisao. you know, we'll talk about the second phase of Operation Clear Public Roads and Highways. And of course, we'll also talk about indisciplined driving.
Which is a disease afflicting.
Yeah, most of the time, you know, it caused a lot of accidents. We've seen that recently, especially the battle had in highway.
And Burge saw one yesterday, right in front of him.
And some of them are very scary, you know.
Yeah.
So we have the PRO on the line. Yes, PRO. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. How are you, Ibrahim?
How are you feeling?
A bit excited, but thank God.
Okay, that's good.
Excited to be on the show.
Yeah, so PRO, it's with your permission, we'd like you to allow us to delve into some of the activities that you've been doing. We've seen the second phase of Operation Clear the Public Roads and Highways. Can you take us through it, please?
Yes, thank you very much. You are aware that this has been happening since last year, more or less, when we started the Operation Clear the Road. And the intention was, among many, was to ensure and also enhance security of this country, because there was a time where there has been a lot of accidents related to traffic congestion and you name it. So for this reason, through the Security Council, there was a possibility, or there was this to come up with an operation where we'll be able to mitigate some of these challenges. And for that reason, the institution or the constitution of the Operation Clear the Road came about. In addition to security, we also are aware of the health implications, health hazards, as far as food production is concerned, the environment is concerned, you know, and all that. Because we also have seen that some of the people who are selling on the street, and you look at the environment in which they do sell, especially around the gutters, especially around the footpaths, where also they're going to obstruct. But also, we understand other people who install installations on the road, on the footpath, to sell their neighbors and their akaras, also obstruct the people who are walking on the pavement, the pedestrians, who are forced now to go on the road, where the main road, where we have vehicles going, and this can consequently lead to accidents. And this has been happening, it has been going. Fortunately for us, the task force was able to complete the fourth phase within the Greater Banjul area. We had wanted to do this across the country, but you know, with experience, we realized that the demand and the need actually is more within the Greater Banjul area. We would go to other parts, but let's complete with this. And unfortunately, to the success is that, as usual, the Gambians, because people will always say the Gambia police force or Gambia will always come with operations, and at the end of the day, people need to understand what is the essence of the operation. It's because there is a need, and that there is that needed concerted effort at a point in time. That effort would be put in place to ensure that that issue or that problem is solved. But we have seen that it hasn't. It has not. It has not. So now we have come up with what we call enforcement, meaning we have cleared everywhere, and wherever we clear, people knew that they're supposed not to be there because they are asked to move from that place. Whether it's structures, whether there are people who are just spreading things to sell on the road. So this time there is nothing like clearing. We are going to effect arrest of these people, and we are going to prosecute them. Basically, that's the way forward, because it's difficult, and like I have always said, there is a lot here, especially when it comes to security, when it comes to development. We understand that these are things that are supposed not to happen, but we have realized that it is happening, and it's affecting our development, it's affecting our environment, it's affecting safety and security. So coming up together and agreeing to the fact that this is something that should not happen, and we should stop it, and it has been announced many times, activity has been taking place. For months, resources have been put into this. But again, it all comes to what we may think as is others who call it is a failure. But it's not a failure, because at least we have started something, and now that we are going to effect arrest of these people, we are going to prosecute them accordingly, and I think this is a good start once more.
Yeah, so the issue of Serekunda and other places that you cleared already, it is claimed that people are returning back to those places again. And, you know, most of the time, that's why people will say the operation clear the road or the highway, it's a failure. And, you know, the police might not agree, but you know, at some point too, you should agree, because I believe yourself, you've been seeing people going back to these cleared places.
Yes, true. Yes, true. But the issue is, we agree. We can agree, because if we remove people there and they are coming back, a typical example of the case that I always cite, and I know people say maybe I'm obsessed with Albihaj Junction, where we have that mango tree. That's a very critical junction. When vehicles are turning from Karaba Avenue to Serakunda, from Serakunda going, it's very critical. And the woman who sells there and the people around there, we tried to remove them. We've taken them to police station. We took everything that they own around there. And that's not once, not twice. And she's still there. You understand what I'm saying? So, and it's not the only one, like any other places. And at the end of the day, what people say is, okay, the police. But how about us, Gambians? How about us, civilians? How about us, the ordinary person who is doing business? Because there are procedures to do business, because there is a certification, there is a place meant for business. So places that are officially actually been announced that it is prohibited for people to be in those places, to do certain, to engage themselves in certain things, should move out. If this announcement is done, it should have been enough. Just an announcement should have been enough, because everyone does know that I should not be here. Much more if it is announced that no one should be there. So we should respect the rules, we should respect the regulations, we should respect, institutions and organizations that are empowered by law to ensure that there is stability, there is peace and security in this country. So yes, police, we could say police have not done this, but again, at the end of the day, I think this is a collective responsibility. It's all of us as Gambians, not just even the people who are selling, but how about the people who are allowing people to sell in the corridors, on the corridor just around their fence, building structures there to be able to open shops on the road, which is not allowed. So in essence, we can agree to a point that we did not get what we wanted to get, because we expected that after declaring nobody should come back, because already we forced them to go out. Now that they are out, but again they are back on the street. We don't have a choice. What we do have is to ensure that the regulations, the rules are enforced, and this is what we are going to do in the second phase of the operation. Yes.
Yes, Piaro. I mean, I think sometimes the charges that you ask people to pay when they are taken to court, they are just peanuts. I mean, if you tell me to pay 500, it's not much money. I can pay that 500 and I go my way. Next time again, I'll come. I'll be like the Gambia Police Force and all this NRA people. They are not very serious. I mean, at some point they'll just charge me 500. I'll sacrifice that. So don't you think we should think about charging 10,000, 20,000?
Yes, that could be a possibility, but again, we have to understand that what those people have done is they are doing things against the Constitution, against the law, against the regulation. So we equally, as enforcement officers, we cannot also go beyond that. What we can do is to effect arrest and take to the court, and the court will do the rest. And there is nothing they equally can do beyond what is stipulated in our regulation, and this is what is happening. Right. And but like I said, we are more than committed this time to ensure that we frustrate people, we frustrate their businesses of people who actually, because I know people wouldn't be happy with those statements, frustrating them. But what is important is that if you are doing a business, do it in a space and a place where it is conducive, where it is allowed by law and regulations. Not to do it in a place that is for communal purpose, for communal. It's not for communal places like the streets and on the way should not be a place where individuals would just come for their individual interests against the communal interest. And I think that is important to know.
Can I just ask Piaro a very quick question before we go on to indisciplined driving? Whilst you were speaking, Piaro, we were showing some images captured by our camera, as well as some of the structures that were quite so significant structures that were being destroyed. We saw tables and benches belonging to, being completely smashed to smithereens by people. I mean, is that necessary? I can understand the structures being, but why do the tables and benches need to be smashed to smithereens? And we have the footage. We've been showing it whilst you've been speaking.
Yes, we've seen that, because most of these structures, especially the structures, are located in places where they're supposed to be located. That's one part. You're talking more of tables and benches who are on the street. Yes, we could have said, okay, they will take the bench and tables and get back home and get the location. But these are people who have been repeated. We told them many times not to come back. They come back to those places. So the best thing is it will take them another 1 week or 1 month to come together and be able to get a table and a chair to come back to that place.
Wow.
So that was one way. By this we are also using.
Let us quickly delve into indisciplined driving in the Gambia. Since the opening of the Battle Harden Highway, we've seen a lot of accidents. I mean, some people lost their lives. And the worst thing is you can see drivers driving the opposite side. I mean, they won't respect the traffic rules. Look at that driver. Sometimes they drive this way. I mean, which is very dangerous. I mean, you will be driving and someone is driving towards you on the same lane. Piero.
Yes, this is a type of the call.
Yes.
Yes. This is noted. Seriously, I am one of those people who would receive almost millions of calls regarding this, whether it's people who are driving against the traffic. This is something that we've been seeing happening, and also we've been seeing something like that also with the stunning of children or school boys and girls on our streets. And I think this is something that is a concern to us, and we have not left this in the hands of anybody. But the Gambia police force, anytime this happens, we have reports around this. We go to address this. And I think in the recent past, we have arrested no less than 111, I can remember vividly, no less than 100 school-going children, teenagers who are involved in what they call stunning or drifting. But at the end of the day, at the time, because these are concerned, these are our children who are going to school, and we have actually laws here to ensure that this does not happen. But under the circumstance in which it happened, at the time in which it happened, when exams and everything are ongoing, so the effect to that also was something that was looked at the time. But we are not saying that's an excuse at all. But more importantly, what you talked about, the driving against the traffic, I don't think there is an excuse for that at all. There is no excuse for that. And with the fact that the Gambia Police Force now has instituted what we call the highway patrol, and if you are watching or if you usually going by the Senegambia road going to Turntable, you would see there are vehicles and motorcycles, mobile traffic, motorcycles on the road, police officers on the patrol. And the reason for that is to ensure that anybody who is found doing such things, violating or non-compliant to the traffic regulations on the road, are attended to immediately. And we have what we call it's not of recent though, but we are enforcing what we call spot fine. The police officer has the mandate with him is the receipt from the government of the Gambia that any officer or any driver who for any other reason has violated the traffic regulation is mandated to fine the officer on the spot to pay that, in the absence of which the vehicle can be impounded and stuff like that. So we are trying to ensure that all of these things become a history in this country.
Will we get a receipt for that?
That's what
Yes, you get a receipt.
That's
for
what
that.
you said. And you said you arrested 111
for driving against.
So
Yes.
what happened?
That's what I said. What happened is that when those people were arrested, and it was about 6 months ago. I can remember. If I can remember, it was 6 months ago when the PIU component, because when we were called, the PIU went on the ground to actually effect arrest to these people, because we are able to cordon them. That is, we are able to get them to one place, and they were all arrested and brought to
Piero,
PIU.
quickly, someone sent a message saying last week Thursday, the police, there was a police driver who was who was also, driving irresponsibly on the traffic. And, how can we take our police serious if they are breaking the rules as well? You are double signaling and at the same time, doing certain things. So people will not take you serious.
No, come on. I think that would be a misrepresentation. So you need to understand in which capacity is he actually doing that. Is he doing that in full uniform, in official duties and rushing for to attend to a matter, or is in his own private vehicle in full uniform and putting a double signal because he's in a rush to get back, to get to home. So we have to understand circumstances, we have to understand situations. And for the person acting in that capacity as on his own personal business cannot be translated as to the Gambia Police Force. Yes, he might have been doing something that is not appropriate, that is not lawful at all. But again, like I said, we have to all differentiate that. But if it is within also in official capacity that he is doing that, and the double signal is meant for an emergency, because everybody knows what double signal is. It's not only the police, but mostly when there is an emergency that people are responding to. If you are a driver, when you see a double signal, you hear the horn going, it's telling you that something, not just anybody would just on traffic, would just put double signal and will rush, you know, because he's in a haste. But because it's attending to a matter, mostly these are emergency matter, national issues and stuff like that. So those are the concerns. And I think when that happens, people need to understand that this person is attending to the matter. Maybe somebody is suffering somewhere. Maybe he's attending to someone's concern somewhere. And this is the person's responsibility at the time. So basically that's the case. So people need not just to come to conclusion. Because
he said there was no double signal. He was driving the opposite direction. And, you know, Piaro, I think it's important for us to put our people on check as well.
The thing is, we don't know the context.
Very well. I totally agree with you.
Yes.
I totally agree with you. If that is the case, then that is wrong. We have to accept that. What is wrong is wrong. In every quarter, regardless of who does that.
Yes, thank you, Piaro. It's about policing the police as well. But we are all in this together.
Yes, please. Thank you so much. This is very well appreciated.
Thank you for talking to us on QTV this morning. We look forward to more engagements in the future.
No problem. Thank you.
Yeah, so thank you, Mr. Adedrame, for also staying throughout, these segments, and we appreciate your time.
Next time, ask them about these people driving without lights at night. But that will be for another
I
program.
counted like 17 of them last night.
Zebra crossing?
Zebra crossing.
Drivers don't know about zebra crossing. You can stand there for 10 hours.
All right, so thank you very much. Thank you very much. We'll take a short break. After the break, then we'll take the last segment of this program. We'll be right back.
With so many things to do in a single day, it's important to have a network you can trust. When there's family and friends to connect with and business calls to make, you need a network that is reliable and fast. Talk longer, browse faster, go farther, and roam wider. When your network is solid, the world is your oyster. QCell, your trusted network in the Gambia.
Do your banking the smart way with the new Aji Bank mobile app. Transfer money to any bank account in the Gambia. Top up airtime for all networks. Pay utility bills. Check your account balance and view mini statements. Request for ATM cards. Request for checkbooks and more in a single touch. So, do your banking in a smart way. Do your banking now with Aji Bank mobile app. Every time is banking time. Aji Bank, your investment partner.
The future is now with QCell's 5G network. Experience speeds like never before with our new 5G Rocket Fixed Internet plan. Get speeds from 10 Mbps to 100 Mbps. Your 5G enabled device.
Thank you very much. If you're just tuning in, we've already exhausted most of our segments, and now we're going to the last segment of this program. And we'll be talking to Bakari Kamara, head matron, Tanka Psychiatric Hospital. And of course, in focus, the rising Kush menace. And gentlemen, you're welcome on QTV this morning. It's good to have you here.
It's a pleasure having me.
Yeah, so Bakari, let's take us through. Okay, you work with Tanka. And the issue of Kush is really alarming in our sub-region. Have you got any experience with people that are affected, by this Kush? and we're taking to your place, and you find it a very hard situation.
Yeah, thank you. First and foremost, good morning to you all for having me here. Of course, for Kush is something that is alarming in West Africa. Gambia is not an exception. Gambia is just a transit country. We don't, manufacture any drug. We don't prepare or readily prepared drugs that we consume. But we are part of the country that consume drugs. And drugs comes through the country, and then some retain and some pass and go to other countries. Kush is one of them. Even at the moment, if I'm speaking, at the moment that we have one individual there, there are particular persons that are very stubborn in headed. What I mean by stubborn means because they always complain of something in them. Most of the time, they will always say something is in my head running. You will see one individual will just come and start hitting the wall, boom, with his head. So even at the moment, that's what we have. Yesterday, they have to, take him up from the ceiling. So he has to scale up the ceiling where he is in his room. So he climbed up and then, spoiled the ceiling. He went through. So the security has to go follow him and then get him down. So persistently, he's always like that. He's always like that. Even if you don't, look after him, he may commit something. He may even kill himself. Because due to certain thing usually the person feels, and feeling that yes, this is something that is happening in my system and it is not normal. Absolutely yes, that's true. It is not normal. Where you're putting in chemical in your system that is running through you.
I wonder, you said sometimes you have these patients banging their heads on walls, and do you think that is because of stubbornness? Or is there some more psychological or psychiatric reasoning behind things?
Yes.
No, I wouldn't say stubbornness, but yes, it's psychiatric conditions attached to it due to substances they have been using. The psychosubstance means they are active psychosubstances. If you take them, they change all your morphology and all your systems, and your physiology will change all of a sudden, and then it will lead you to something. That is where the symptoms of it will manifest. Then you either manifest by thinking that you are the most powerful individual you may ever see on this earth. So some of them will start manifesting it now, either by using their own power to either to uproot a pole, or using their own head to bang their head on a wall or on something, thinking that if they should bang it, they will have a breakthrough. So this is what happens exactly.
So, Tanka, do you think that this sort of cases, really, or for Tanka, because we normally talk about rehab centers, do you have that kind of facility to provide services that a rehab center might provide?
Well, this is a very wonderful question, because I keep advocating for this a lot. Because most of these drug users and drug abusers, some of them, not necessarily they are mentally ill. People are taking drugs, they are not mentally ill. So, but there are certain conditions, especially the psychiatric condition perspective we are talking about. Some of them, they are mentally challenged, and then they will go into these drugs. So in normal circumstances, what should have been is the rehab center we are talking about. And then looking at these two centers we are having, like the prison services and then the Tanka, that is the psychiatric treatment services we have. So in all of those components, they should have their own rehab centers, because we do have prison services, prison officers and prison services there, prison patients. So in normal circumstances we are talking about now, they should have their own forensic wing. When they have their own forensic wing, that's where they have their own experts coming into them, and then the rehab center, the rehab specialist again will come into them. So more of the Tanka too. Tanka is just a treatment center where we load you with chemists. We load you with these drugs. So now you are trying to rehab somebody and you are loading that person with those drugs. It's not ideal. What is ideal is taking that person to rehab to properly, and then so that the person can know and then feel and or aware him or her self that what he is taking is something that is abnormal. So that's the way rehab does. We are not doing that. We are just doing a superficial part of it, because that's the cover of it. But now, what rehabs entail itself is not available. It is not a Tanka, because Tanka is not a rehab center. It's just a stabilized center, and then you are reintegrated back into the community and back into the society. That's what we do. Yes.
So, but you're getting all these patients, are they being sent over to Tanka Tanka? Patients with the Kush problem, with the Kush drug problem, are they being sent to Tanka Tanka?
No.
Okay.
Because as I was saying, because most of these Kush takers, some of them are not mentally challenged. So they will be rushed, when they take Kush and then you tend to manifest the side effects, they will just rush you to nearby facility. And then you go to the nearby facility and those will stabilize you. When they stabilize
you say facility, you mean medical
facility, medical health centers.
Or medical?
Yes, medical health centers. Because what Carniving has seen, we are not even receiving that from our end. We only receive it with a comorbidity. Means you are already a mental illness, somebody, we identify that in you and you happen to take these things. Then we accept you, you come in. The facilities in fact would refer you from their facility to Tanka Tanka for proper care. That's the way it does. But if they find out that in a history that you are not mentally ill, been mentally ill, so it doesn't want you to, to be moved to Tanka Tanka. Yes.
Okay, finally, I know this is going to be our final question. We will come back here next week, to continue from where we stop. What are you people doing, at least to paint Tanka Tanka's name again, for people to have confidence? Because once you talk about Tanka Tanka, people tend to attribute it with negativity, people that are sick, Anyway, Tanka Tanka, it's not an appeasing name to many people. Once you mention Tanka Tanka, kira fa dem Tanka Tanka, mu ñëwaat, the society start being very careful even to get closer to you. What are we doing to brand that name again?
Thank you so much. If I may suggest, what name do you want us to suggest, and then what name do you want us to change with? But first and foremost, we have to understand this. Mental health in this country, I'm just being realistic. Mental health in this country is just unfortunate because we are faced with a lot of stigma and discrimination. The moment you just identify yourself, you have just mild depression, and which everybody can go through it. So no one is immune to it. But then people will start, even at your own workplace, people will start having that distance from you because thinking that you're going to be aggressive. There are not all aggressive, not all mentally ill individuals are being aggressive. So, but we need to understand in this perspective. So, but then mental health is unfortunate, especially in this country. There is a lot of high discrimination, and there is a lot of stigma, not only coming to the word Tanka Tanka. This is why you don't have, if you come to the gate of Tanka Tanka, you don't see it written Tanka Tanka there. It is only when you are coming from the main highway, then you find the tabla there. Other than that, you don't see anywhere where Tanka Tanka is written apart from inside. Because usually even us the staff, when we are just going out, somebody just passing by, you start, ki dafa joge si dofi. So using that word, dafa joge si dofi.
Yes.
So if something else, you are stigmatizing and you are discriminating. So this is what is happening. So it's just unfortunate. The situation is like this, but advocacy is just ongoing.
How many people do you admit a day? I mean, how many people, comes to Tanka Tanka a day? And if I may know, what is the number of patients that you have?
Yeah, for admission rate fluctuate. There will be a day we will admit up to 10. There will be a day we will not admit even a single person. There will be a day we will
both male and female.
Both male and female.
But are they segregated?
Yes, we have almost 2 wings.
Okay.
That is the male wing and then the female wing. So and there are bugula proof.
Okay.
Bugula proof to all of them. That is restricting the females have to. They only come into mingle during the breakfast time or during the day.
Okay.
Or in the night they are separated.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
That's what
all right. Thank you, Bakari, for talking to us on QTV. But we'll invite you next week. I mean, we'll prefer you to get us a space next week to invite you. I know you are busy, but please give us time next week to invite you again so that we can have a lengthy discussion.
Okay.
Yeah, because what we want to discuss, the time is already up. We cannot discuss it all here.
Okay.
Yeah. So thank you.
Thank you,
Mr. Boy. Thank you very much for, being here too.
Stepping in.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's good to have you. It's good to have you here. Yeah, so until we come here again, thanks to our viewers. Enjoy the rest of our programs. Have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.